When we say ERP implementation fails,
Resistance of adopting the technology could lead to various things.
does it really means that it fails technically?
Another one is the towards a particular technology.
Or does that means that it does not meet the expectation of the customer, of the organization?
The organization need to understand that what is their ultimate goal. I mean, they are just adopting the technology just because it's a technology.
Can a project be technically successful but still be considered as failure?
Back in 2013-14, it's a big retail giant here. They adopted the technology. If any company is not clear about their ROIs, then you're asking for trouble.
Let's just talk about the type of the failures that we have.
The sales pitch was so high. The expectation was like, we will help you travel to moon and come back. But soon, when the deployment start, it was way below.
The ERP does not delivers or does not works as expected.
People believe that the technology will take their jobs. Don't focus on the technology change. First, you have to have that particular resource at the captain of your ship. If the captain of the ship leaves right in the middle of the sea, so that's one of the reasons from the vendor side.
Avoid being in those 70% who fails.
There was an organization which thinks that the ERP implementation would be in 18 months, but right in the middle of the sea, they analyzed that it would take like 30 months. So what would you do now?
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to another podcast of Impliway. So over the years, multiple studies by different organizations like Gartner and Panorama Consulting Group shows that many ERP implementation fails. Now we need to understand what is the definition of failure and why does it fails actually? And why does so many organization fails despite investing heavily in multiple ERPs like SAP, Microsoft Dynamics, Oracle, and Odoo? So today we are going to unpack real reasons behind ERP failures. I'm pleased to say that we are joined by Mr. Shikoh Safvi with us today. He's kind enough to give us time today to talk about this specific topic. Mr. Shikoh brings deep insights into ERP implementations, the human challenges behind them, and the practical realities most people don't talk about. Mr. Shikoh, welcome to the show.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Welcome, Assalam. Doing very well. So, Mr. Shikoh, to get started, I would like you to request to, introduce yourself and let us know that what are your experiences and where have you been through?
Thank you so much for inviting me here. It's an honor. And I will just brief you on a few things. I started my professional career with the banking sector. I learned a lot over there. That was my first experience. And, by the end of that particular job, I tend to learn about what ERP is all about because back in those days, ERP was very uncommon in Pakistan. After that, I jumped to various software houses in Pakistan, and I am lucky enough to experience hands-on experience on various ERPs like Odoo, Microsoft Dynamics, Oracle, you name it. And it was a wonderful journey working with, software houses. Then I moved to the public sector of Pakistan. It was a all different ball game. Believe it or not, the private sector of Pakistan versus the public sector of Pakistan is two different time zones. You would be experiencing a lot different things which you have never heard, never experienced. But it was a very good journey working with them. Then I happened to work with few multinational companies. I travel abroad to implement ERPs, and all in all, it was a great experience. Right now, it's better to do your own consultancy rather than working for a particular organization and going along with them. So it's better to be an advisor than to be an employee.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, and I'm sure we'll learn so much from your experience today. So Mr. Shikoh, when we say ERP implementation fails, what does it means actually? So when we say ERP implementation fails, does it really means that it fails technically, or does that means that it does not meet the expectation, of the customer, of the organization, or what does it means actually?
Okay, I need to walk you through series of various failures from my experience, which I've learned. First of all, any organization within Pakistan and abroad, they need to understand that what is an ERP. That's a big question. That why do you need that ERP?
Yeah.
And if the ERP is successfully being implemented, what am I getting out of it? The organization need to understand that what is that their ultimate goal at the end of the day, that they need from this ERP. Are they looking for accounts or the payroll or the procurement process to be automated? Is that it? Or they are just adopting the technology just because it's a technology, or they are, they somehow believe that their old legacy system is, broken, and they believe that it's not feasible enough to scale their organization. So up and the front most important thing is that the organization need to understand that if I adopt any technology, any ERP, what am I getting out of it? So if you are not defined with your goals, then you might not be convinced by that particular technology at the end of the day. If you're not satisfied with the technology, you can always go back that, look, the technology never worked. No, it's not the technology never worked. It's your goal or your objective of adopting that technology, which was very essential. So whenever any organization wants to adopt any technology, so keep the technology on the side, and they need to understand that what am I getting out of this technology? Yeah,
I completely agree, sir. I completely agree to identify the goal and to set the vision before we even talk about ERP is really, very important, and is a very important factor of, making the ERP project a successful project. Because if it is just about, having the ERP to win the technology race and just to have it because, you should have it, then it would not be a successful project. So, just to continue this question, like, can a project be technically successful but still be considered as failure? So let's say, again, as you mentioned, to identify the goal first and to set the expectations first. So let's say if a customer sets the expectation and convey it, or convey it or not to the vendor, and if the vendor delivers successfully in a way that it works technically, but do you still consider it as a failure if, let's say, it is not adopted, or the team is not trained well?
I'm fully utilized as per all those features which it reminds me of one of my implementations back in 2013-14. It's a big retail giant here, and they adopted the technology. The entire stakeholders, the management, the owners of the company were pretty much with the technology, and they were very much convinced that technology can bring revenue to their retail industry, or they can if they scale up the technology, then their profits, their incomes can go up. And what happens was that if any company decides, or the management or the stakeholders decides that we need to adopt the technology change, be it any ERP. So they need to understand that whether the end user of that technology, which is their employees, are very much aligned with the vision of the owner of the company. And if you are not getting the full potential of that ERP, at the end of the day, you're not utilizing it. For example, you're not using all those features, all those reports, all those business processes, all those dashboards, all those workflows, which are, built-in features. Then you might say, yes, you're correct, that in my books, that's not a successful implementation of an ERP.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. So on a very lighter note, so the thing that you mentioned, just to run the technology race. So let's say a few traditional bosses, if they were asked to implement ERP, and if they ask about the reason why they should implement ERP, and we tell them that it can let's say either it can grow your revenue by collecting all the leads, or it can increase your profits. So a joke is like they say, implement it twice. So the profit is twice.
Yes,
So-
yeah, I know.
So another-
I know. So yeah, but seriously, any organization, I would say that they need to, before jumping into a technology, they need to sit and evaluate that why are we doing this?
Yeah,
What is the ROI? What is the return of investment if it's successfully been implemented? If any company is not clear about their ROIs, then you're asking for trouble.
All right, I agree. So, I mean, the definition here is that it is not necessary that the ERP fails technically. It is possible that an ERP is is done correctly technically, but it could be considered as a failure if it is not adopted
Yes.
the right way.
Yes.
So great, the definition is clear, but let's just talk about the type of the failures that we have. So we've talked about the technical failure. Let's say the ERP does not delivers or does not works as expected. But then there comes the cost overruns, the timeline overruns,
Yes.
the adaptability issues. So if you are asked about what would be the type of the failures as per your experience, so what would be those?
Right. You have asked so many questions in one question. Okay, I'll just take it one by one. First, yes, one has to understand the expected timelines. For example, it's in very initial days of implementing an ERP. For example, we have selected one, either it's be SAP or Oracle or Microsoft. We have picked one, and probably it's the good one, and everybody's convinced that that's the right technology we will be going with. Now, what we need to understand is the timelines, resources, and the budget. It's a triangle: timelines, resources, and the budget. So the timeline should be realistic. It cannot be like
Optimistic.
it's a magic that one Monday morning the entire systems will automatically be changed into something new, and we would look and feel and everything would be fine. No, it's not like that. So the most key factor which I have learned from my experience is, one of the failures is that the unexpected, unreal, and the timelines are. For example, if I give you an example, that there was an organization which thinks that the ERP implementation would be in 18 months, but right in the middle of the sea, they analyzed that it would take like 30 months. So what would you do now? Now what happens is, which I experience, is that then they start rolling back, and they would cut down the key factors to success. For example, they would cut down the iterations for user acceptance tests. They would cut down the requirement gathering phase. If they have analyzed initially that it would take a lot more of time as expected, so the requirement analysis or the system analysis would be cut down. And these are small key factors to the success. And if you are compromising on that, then you're asking for trouble. That's one. The other one is that if your decisions, this is another one which I've experienced in public sector of Pakistan, that the decision from the management takes a lot of time. Now, technology which they use is not a technology actually. It's an old-fashioned way of taking decisions in files. So what they do is that those files are roaming around in various departments, and we are just waiting for that. Now, you are burning the cost, you are burning the resources, you are burning the timelines, and you're just waiting for a decision to come. So, this is another one, which is a factor.
Yeah.
Then another one is the biasness towards a particular technology. For example, if somebody hires me and I am slightly tilted towards one particular technology, be it Odoo or Microsoft Dynamics or Oracle or SAP, if I'm declined towards a particular technology, so I would always convince you as the owner of the company that you go with this particular technology. So I'm actually choking you to a way that you adopt my technology, knowing the fact as a consultant that technology is a misfit for that particular organization. But I'm declined to that particular technology, so I would encourage you, or I will make you sell my product. So that biasness shouldn't be there. You should have a consultant who can give you an honest answer. For example, I'll just give you an example. From my experience, the audience out there may differ their analysis. All these basic technologies, for example, if I talk about SAP is from my experience, SAP is more about plant maintenance, where the factories are, where the production is, where the manufacturing is. So
basically large setups.
Large setups with a huge chunk of
complex operations
of production and plant maintenance and manufacturing. So from my experience, I would advise SAP to these these organizations.
Yeah.
If I come to Oracle is more towards the high-end databases.
Yeah.
If I talk about Microsoft Dynamics, it's all about FMCG. If you go to various malls, you would see mainly outlets with Microsoft Dynamics.
Yeah.
And Odoo is basically targeting SMEs, more customizations, and they can adopt all those changes which a particular organization needs.
Yeah, definitely. Again, thank you so much for identifying the types of the failure and why. I mean, we have identified the types of the failure. So we have discussed why do we face these kind of failures, and so let's say there would be timeline overruns because of over expectation from the customer or over commitment from the vendor side. And obviously, you've very well said that the approval cycle that goes through multiple layers of leadership. What happens is in my very humblest of opinion. So what happens is. So let's say a decision or an opinion goes to the first layer of leadership, and then it gets approved, and then the second layer of leadership, and then the third layer of leadership, and then they all combine together to sign one thing. And initially, in the initial days of ERP implementation, they just delay the approvals, and towards the end of the implementation, they just as you mentioned, they just compromise on what was expected, and ultimately they do not get what they were expecting initially.
Exactly.
So it kind of becomes to the compromising situation in a way, and obviously so timeline is one.
Yes.
Which ERP are you choosing is the other reason.
Yeah.
And the involvement or the active participation in terms of approvals, in terms of rolling over the ERP from the leadership is very important. It's very important for any ERP to make it a success. So I mean, we have discussed these three, types of the failures.
Yes.
And obviously there would be many others. So let's
Yes.
say
I
incompetent
mean, let's
vendor.
move to one of the critical ones.
Exactly.
From my experience, one of the most critical ones all my life, what I've seen is the reluctancy to the change. I believe this is the biggest factor which I face, that the organization is not willing to adopt the change. I would, I'm put this one right at the top, because the resistance of adopting the technology could lead to various things. I've seen it from my own experience that people believe that the technology will take their jobs.
Yeah.
So if this technology comes, so what will we do if the entire thing is automated? So that scare factor in that particular employee is one. Second is that the entire department or the entire company, for example, the owner of the company decides that I want SAP, and he's very happy with it. He's very happy to invest. He brings in consultants, and there you go. Step one: requirement gathering, analysis, design. I'm picking up the best methodology to adopt and to implement. But did that owner realize that if he has decided, has his team decided or not?
Like, are they on board or not?
They are on board or not? Because if they are not on board, because that's the end user, if they are not using the system,
exactly.
At the end of the day, they are the ones who's gonna use the system in a way that they would be generating payroll from that. They would be I'm posting vouchers. They would be creating purchase orders. They would be creating sale orders. They would be so. Are they accepting that change or not? So that change management is the first thing. My advice would be, don't focus on the technology change. First, change your mentality of your employees that this technology will bring revenue to the company, and automatically, indirectly, it will go to their own benefit. So yes, that's one of the key factors.
I mean, very well said, and I completely agree that I've seen that the fear that you're talking about, it's the fear from the employee side, that they like ERP might get their jobs or technology might get their jobs, because most of the things would be done by ERP than what they would do. And also there is another kind of the fear that again that might be from the employee side. It is that because ERP adds a transparency layer, so all of their work is now being transparently recorded, and they cannot move an inch from what they're expected to do.
Yeah.
So this is another kind of the fear that an employee has. Also again, the thing that you mentioned, that the change management or the resistance management is very real, because another kind of the fear that employee might have is, so let's say they're already busy doing multiple things, and creating sales orders and purchase orders, and day in day out they're just putting data, and they're just busy doing their operations,
because they are used to that particular
exactly.
Old-fashioned legacy applications. Either if it's an application, or they are doing it manually on the piece of paper, or they're using Excel, Word, or PowerPoints. So now they are used to that particular day in, day out job, and all of a sudden I say that no, stop using your Excel files, and now you have to go and make a purchase order using this particular. So now he is thinking that all those things which I've been doing is going down the drain.
Exactly.
And I need to create myself as per the need of an hour.
All right. Again, we have talked about core reasons of failures and why do ERP implementation fails, and one of the biggest reasons that we discussed was the change management and the resistance management. I mean, we have discussed the side of the failures that comes from the customer side. But obviously there's equal crime partner is they could be vendors,
Yes.
so probably poor requirement gathering, or over commitment, under delivering.
Yes.
So if you could just shed some light on this.
Yes. While you were asking this question, there were few glimpses from my past which came in my mind. So I'll just share it with you with a big smile on my face. That yes, back in 2013 and 14, I was working for one of the largest software houses in Pakistan. And at that time, they have recently become a partner to one of the biggest ERPs in the world. And what they decided was to pick every person from the market who has some kind of an ERP experience, not knowing that how that particular ERP behaves. So they hired, I'm not exaggerating, about 50, 60 professional ERP consultants from the market on a very high rate. And what they believe was that this particular brand of ERP can change the entire dynamics of Pakistani market. And they were right, because it's a big name and everybody wants it. What happens was that all those consultants were unaware of the entire technology. Some were, some weren't. So when they hired their sales team to pitch that particular brand, so majority of the companies in Pakistan, either as a national or multinational companies, they adopted just because of that logo, that brand. They said, wow, that's the name. So, and the sales team pitch as in that if we are long gone, that brand will support you. And they buy that argument, and they adopted that particular technology. But the problem was that the sales pitch was so high. The expectation was like, we will help you travel to moon and come back, and they said, okay, wow, that's a wow factor. But soon, when the deployment started, it was way below the par level. And what happens was, right in the middle of the deployment, I can, literally pinpoint those companies. They said, no, thank you so much. We would rather do it ourselves.
Definitely.
So what majority of the companies did, like if they what you call had a contract with let's say 50 companies, half of them left in the middle, and they said that we would rather hire that particular technology guy and we'll do it ourselves rather than asking you guys to do, because the brand expectations were so high. And when you guys came with your deployment team, it was so below par that thank you so much. We need to just let
Look
you
for
go.
the right guy.
What happens? Time. You lost the time,
exactly.
You lost the money, and you lost the resources.
Exactly. I completely agree that hiring untrained or unexperienced or inexperienced people from the different technology, and considering that if they know ERP, they can do better in particular ERP is one of the worst things that a company or an organization could offer. And obviously there are multiple other reasons from the vendor side as well. Again, as I mentioned, like poor discovery and under commitment. And obviously in my personal opinion or my personal experience, I felt that it's not just about the expertise in particular technology or particular ERP, but it's more about having experience into that particular industry as well. So let's say if someone is working in textile industry, it would be so better to have someone in your team who has the experience of textile and assign them to the textile industry.
Yes.
So that is very important.
And my advice to all the vendors out there who are partners to any XYZ ERPs is that you guys don't have the genie in a lamp.
Yeah.
That one morning it will come out and change the entire organizational structure. So you have to be very realistic with your timelines, and you should not be overcommitting with their requirements which they set.
Exactly. So wonderful. I mean, we have discussed the definition of failures. We have discussed the type of the failure. We have discussed one of the most common failures in your experience, the reasons,
Yeah,
and
I mean, while you are, concluding, there is one more factor that majority of the software houses are unable to retain a very good resource.
yeah,
And that if that particular resource who is right there from the beginning of the implementation or the deployment of an ERP, and somewhere in the middle of the sea it goes to another company, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
So one of the other reasons why the ERP fails or it do not meet the milestones or the timelines is because the guy who was there right from the beginning, I mean, not guy, it can be girl as well. So no, I mean, biasness on that side. But that particular resource is the key factor, because that particular resource has learned the business requirements.
Yeah.
So if that person is knowledgeable enough to take your ship right till the destination, so you have to have that particular resource as the captain of your ship.
Yeah.
If the captain of the ship leaves right in the middle of the sea, so that's one of the reasons from the vendor side, the ERP fails.
I mean, I do agree with this idea, but again, it's something that should be managed by the organization who is providing the services. So let's say if the organization is dependent on that particular guy or a girl to sail the ship towards the end of the to
destination.
Exactly. So I mean, the organization has to create the alternative for that particular resource, and so they'll have to do the alternative.
Yes, it should. They should have a backup, but it's best to keep that particular resource or make any kind of a commitment that you cannot leave the ship in this because it can be a disaster for the company and the reputation of the particular vendor.
I mean, like that's a separate we can have another podcast to how to retain the resource and how to what kind of professionalism or what level of professionalism,
what kind of challenges that these partners of ERP faces day in day out, and how to prevent them from failing.
Exactly. So amazing. We have discussed the definition of failure. We have discussed the type of the failure. We have discussed one of the most common reasons of failure.
Yeah.
Now let's just quickly shed some light on how a company who is willing to implement ERP in their organization can avoid being in those 70% who fails. So what a customer side could do in terms of selecting partners, in terms of selecting ERP, in terms of getting themselves prepared for the ERP adaptation and implementation. What do you think they should do in order to avoid those failures?
Yes, very interesting question. If somebody is to hire me, I would sit with the owner of the company or the board of directors and say that what is that you're looking out of this ERP? At the end of the entire journey, when we are at the destination, what are you achieving? Are you only adopting just because it's a technology? You're adopting just because your old legacy vendor says that I'm not going to provide the services, or is it just the automation of the entire business flow? So what is it what you want? What is the ROI which you're looking for? That's the first thing. So before jumping into a particular technology or what kind of timelines, what kind of a budget, the client or the company or the organization needs to understand that what do they want from this ERP. That's one. Second, that once this ERP is adopted, Are you looking for your decision making to be faster? For example, if you're a retail giant and you want to invest on a particular retail store that it will be, profitable. So with those data which you have from this ERP, is it all about your decision? So first and upmost is what change are you expecting this ERP will bring? That's
very well said and very concisely said that having clear goals,
yes,
setting the right budget,
yes,
and setting the expectation about the timelines is the key factors from a
Yes.
vendor side.
Yes.
That could lead them to the success. Just to give my 2 cents on this would be, I do agree with all of the points that you have said. Just again adding to that would be in my personal opinion again. Setting goal is very important. Like equally important is to, again, as you mentioned earlier in the podcast, that equally is important is to get your team on board, like all the HODs, all the departments, and how do they work, what are their expectations, what are their way of working. And
speaking about the expectations, there is a very common phrase. The people who know me, I tend to say this a lot that I love playing bat and ball, cricket. It's in our blood. If our team doesn't perform, it doesn't mean the game is bad.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
if your team is not performing, it doesn't mean that the ERP is bad.
Exactly.
It's something wrong with your team.
Yeah, definitely.
So you have to see that what is not right at that particular time, at that particular hour. So you have to be very much particular in that.
Exactly. We need to find the right culprit.
Yes.
Is it the ERP itself? Is it the technology, or is it you or the vendor?
Yes.
So we need to find the right culprit. And again, I agree with most of the points.
And that was one which we just discussed, that what are they looking for from that particular ERP. And the other big thing to avoid any failure is that your timelines, your goals, your expectations from that particular ERP should be very realistic. Your timeline should be realistic. The vendor selection should be very much accurate. You should read the profiles of all those people from the vendor side.
Exactly.
Who are onboarding your ERP deployment, that who they are, what's their background, are they fit enough or capable enough to deploy this particular ERP.
Exactly. Again, wonderful discussion. Just to conclude the discussion, like, do you have any final notes on the topic, that what major mind shifts the companies need to have in order to have this transition and transformation from the legacy to the ERP, like the modern ERP, or like having no ERP to ERP?
Yes, my conclusion would be that to all the organizations out there, all the companies out there, is that don't be biased to a particular technology, don't be biased to a particular vendor, and don't be biased to the timelines even, because if you are just implementing a particular ERP, let's say in an year or 18 months time, so you should be flexible enough that any deployment can either exceed that particular 18 months or not. One. Second, don't be biased with the technology. That don't be you have a fixed mindset that I need that particular technology. You need to evaluate within neutral consultants that whether that particular technology is fit enough for my organization or not. Then the change management, one which we discussed, that if you have decided that you want to bring that particular change, and if your employees are not willing enough to adopt that particular change, so what happens then? and the upmost is the budget. You have to be very much precise with your budgets as how are you going to spend your money in the entire course of the deployment of the ERP.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Shikoh, for the wonderful insights and your sharing your experience. And I truly hope that this would help a lot of customers to be or existing customers to make the right decisions, take the right steps in order to have a successful implementation. And if you're still watching, thank you so much for being part of this podcast, for being part as a viewer of this podcast. If you have any specific questions, you can just write below in the comments, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thank you.